From the crossroads of the Ozarks, it's PID Radio. Welcome. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and we're in the barn once again, believe it or not, sitting here in this glorious little space, thanks to you.
Amen to that. We do appreciate your support. Prayerful, if you're so led, financial. We know these are difficult times, so please, if it's not something that you can fit into your budget, we're certainly not asking for that. But your prayers, we always appreciate.
We really, really do. And I have to be honest with you. Every dollar that comes in, those of you who send what would be considered a tiny amount, we never see it as a tiny amount.
No.
I pray over that wonderful donator, that person who's been kind enough, because for all I know, that's the only dollar you've got this week.
Yeah, the widow's mite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So every penny is appreciated by all of you, and it all adds up to the point where we were able to do this barn.
Absolutely. And, keeps Grace and Glory and Kibble. And they appreciate that, too.
Yeah, it was so funny. Well, we just want to let you know that it's an interesting month. Before we get into things, first of all, download our app, and then I'll start blathering. I guarantee you, we're going to blather.
Oh, yeah. GilbertHouse.org/app. That's the location. Or you can find it at PIDradio.com/app.
You know what I would recommend, too, if there's a way for you to do it, is to download audio. And I say that because I don't think it's too long in our future, coming up soon, when we may not have an internet as we know it today.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And actually, you can do that with our app. You can download the audio and the video that's in the app.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. And if you guys want to burn it to a disc or whatever, or
share
put it on
around.
a thumb drive, make it some way so that so long as you've got electricity, you can share the information. That's fine with us.
Yep.
Because your donations have made it possible for us to provide all of this stuff for free.
Yeah. And
you 20 years of stuff.
Want to keep that content for free. One of the things that we've been doing, and this was something we noticed Tom Horn was doing years ago as a way to, some might, cynical people would say, well, it's marketing for the books. Okay.
No, he shared the majority of the book with people for free.
Right. And we did that with the Second Coming of Saturn. Did that with Last Clash of the Titans. Doing it right now with Bad Moon Rising at gilberthouse.org. When you go to the articles tab on the website, excuse me, or the articles tab on the app. Been putting them out there in sections ranging from about 1,500 to 2,500 words, roughly a short chapter, and breaking up the book that way and putting it out there. So the information gets out there. It's out on the web. Hey, download it, save it as a PDF, whatever, and share it around. That's fine. That's why we're putting it out there.
Yep.
It's not about, can we sell tons and tons of books? No, because the kind of books we write, we know are not ever going to be New York Times bestseller. In fact, if they get there, we'll have to step back and recalibrate.
Exactly. That would bother me because, frankly, the stuff we write doesn't have the majority don't have an appetite for it.
Correct. Now, that is not to say that there aren't some really good New York Times bestselling authors out there, because Carl Gallups occasionally hits
I know.
Jonathan Cahn.
Almost always.
But their writing style is different than ours.
It is. And there are a lot of people out there who have a wide variety of consumption styles. Let's put it that way. Things that they prefer to read and the style they prefer to read. Some people want very short sentences. Other people want very complex sentences.
Right.
Some people want, give me the Reader's Digest version of what you're trying to tell me. And others, no, I want a library of information.
That's right.
Most of our readers want a library of information. And I say the same thing for Carl Gallups. He writes in a style that's different from my own. But his information, oh my gosh.
He's not dumbing it down, that's
not
for
at
sure.
all. It is a library. It is a master's degree in information. So thank you to Carl Gallups. We love you so much. Come back out to the barn.
Yes, and speaking of that, if you have not yet seen the 4 episodes we just posted on the new Bible's Greatest Mysteries, this is version 2.0. Coming from the barn, Carl Gallups was gracious enough to join us out here and did 4 programs based on his book, The Yeshua Protocol, which is not his latest, but the information is just absolutely astonishing. By the way, I'm feeling fine. This is just, we're so dusty here. Missouri has now moved into drought.
We finally had a bit of rain, but it wasn't enough. It didn't cut down the dust very much.
It did not. So there's a lot of stuff in the air, and that's what's going on with my voice. It's I feel fine. Just have to get the stuff off the course.
And speaking of the way you feel, many of you are praying for Derek, and we'll explain all of that later in this study. But to begin, let me begin with something that's clickbait.
Okay.
Yes, clickbaity.
Clickbait or trickbait even.
Oh, both.
Yep.
But there's a kernel of truth in it, and that's the way the fallen realm works.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the headline. Baba Vanga and Nostradamus both had the same terrifying prediction for 2025.
Okay.
You're going to see a lot of stories like this as we approach the turn of the year. And what essentially this is seeing is a major disruption in the status quo. Baba Vanga, if you're not familiar with her, she was, let's see, where was she from? Hungary?
I thought she was from Lithuania, I think.
But anyway, she passed away in 1996. Bulgaria.
Yeah.
Anyway, she has been right, assuming that the way the interpretation went, because prophecies are like that, except for in the Bible, that is very specific and will sometimes name names, as in Cyrus.
200 years before his rise to power.
Here's what Baba Vanga had to say. She previously correctly predicted the Russian invasion of Ukraine. That's what we're told in this article. I can't verify that. She even once claimed in a 1979 interview that Russia was to dominate the world and that President Putin was going to become the Lord of the world.
Okay.
Yes, that's what this article claims. Now, the reason I even bring this up, because do I believe this? No. But I think the fallen realm work through avenues like this, where you've got a prophet or a prophetess. Nostradamus has been all over the place. But gosh, when I was back in high school, there were all these books on Nostradamus. Because as with the New Age hitting in the 20th century, all of that stuff came back. But I think there's a kernel of truth in it because, as we know, the Essenes also looked at 2025 as a big year.
The beginning of the last 50-year Jubilee period.
Right. So here's my thinking, and then we'll get to a big story. This one's just sort of the
teaser.
Warming up.
Yeah.
It's a warm-up act. If 2025, according to truth, according to real prophecy given to the Essenes and many others in the Old Testament, if 2025 is a year to be looked at, the beginning of the end, if you want to put it that way, and I'm not saying year one of the tribulation, I'm just saying really kicking things off. And Tom Horn also said there was a big thing about 2025. Then we're to look, we being the church, are to look for what? Christ, not the Antichrist. We should all be looking for Christ. So when the Antichrist comes along, if you are not steeped in Bible prophecy, if you don't understand truth, if you don't know how to discern the times and discern the spirits, the Bible tells us, if it were possible, even the elect would believe the signs and wonders that are about to hit the earth. It means next year could be a biggie. Yeah. So it's time to study your Bible. It's time to share with your friends. This is why we started out by saying, download these things if you want to. And I say, get your library ready, because if things go down, and that means electricity, all we'll have is a candle and a book.
And that's why we started out with all of this about try to get information that is no longer dependent on the internet into your hands.
Yep.
Whether it's hard copies of books or information that you've downloaded.
Turned into a PDF, printed out, whatever.
Yeah, audio files, video files that have been downloaded from the web, so that if you've got electricity, you can still view that or share that information. So, yeah.
I'm still I'm old-fashioned. I like DVDs.
Yeah.
If you've got electricity, you can share a DVD.
Yeah. Remember when DVDs came out? And
and they were so big.
Yeah, and we thought, wow, the clarity is so great. And I didn't realize that DVD resolution is actually pretty bad compared to what's available now. Yeah, 4K makes, it's like VHS all over again.
So,
anyway.
like I said, I think we're starting to see the beginning of a lot of really mind-blowing events in the world.
Yeah.
And last night was a big part of what's about to happen.
Yeah, as we're recording this on the morning of Saturday, October 26th, 2024, last night Israel struck a number of locations across Iran in several waves of attacks. I'm not yet clear on exactly what was accomplished. Certainly the opposition parties in Israel are using the opportunity to play politics. Yair Lapid, who was the prime minister briefly in the shared agreement with Naftali Bennett, Lapid said that not attacking strategic and economic targets was a mistake. Avigdor Lieberman, another opposition party leader, said it was just a PR, it was public relations, that it wasn't really done to exact a heavy price from Iran. Now, the Iranians are promising a response. Of course, Israel had promised a response, and we didn't really discuss this last week because the news didn't break until after we'd recorded PID Radio, and that was the leak of a couple of American intelligence assessments to a Telegram channel that focuses on Middle East news. These documents were probably leaked, and this is what the FBI investigators think, by somebody inside American intelligence. Now, these were not documents that were shared with the U.S. by Israel. These were assessments prepared by U.S. intelligence, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. That's the group that, if I remember correctly, was based in St. Louis. I wrote about it in The God Conspiracy. Anyway.
However,
they were surveilling Israel and making their analysis of what Israel's preparations were for the attack. And then, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, it was reported a few days ago that the U.S. did get information directly from Netanyahu and leaked it. Now, if that's been changed since then, but that's what was reported a few days ago.
Well,
and Netanyahu was livid.
Well, yeah.
That he had shared it with President Biden, saying this is what our plans are. Remember when Biden went over to the, the big meeting?
G7 security?
The financial or foreign policy or whatever it was. I don't know, some meeting, that he went to. And he was asked, so do you know what Israel's going to do? Yeah. You going to tell me? No.
Yeah. What I saw reported, and I've been following the story this past week for 5 and 10 for Skywatch TV, is that these were U.S. intelligence analyses that were marked top secret, no foreign, meaning no foreign distribution. The only other agencies that would have had access to it would have been the intelligence services of Canada, the Five Eyes, Canada, U.S., UK, Australia, New Zealand. But FBI investigators reportedly Thursday were saying that they believed it came from somebody inside U.S. intelligence. Now, again, this was not information from Israel given to the U.S. It was the U.S. spying on Israel and saying this is what the Israelis are doing to prepare for their attack. And that because this information was leaked to a Telegram channel, Israel had to pull back, delay their response by several days while they recalibrated and changed what they were going to do.
Okay. This is one of the headlines. Intelligence leak reveals details of potential Israeli strike plans against Iran. And if you're wondering what the Five Eyes is, it's not the letter I, it's your I, E-Y-E. It's essentially the spy
the Anglo,
within the Anglo-speaking countries.
The Anglo nations, basically the descendants of from England.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I could see Netanyahu being furious one way or the other because this was yet another betrayal by Western intelligence services of Israel to Israel's enemies. There's a long history of this. I talked about this in my presentation in Ohio on the secret history of Israel, how in fact, I'll recommend again the book, The Secret War Against the Jews by John Loftus and Mark Aarons, Aarons, which is about how Western intelligence agencies have conspired against Israel since before Israel declared independence, because the intelligence services are essentially an extension of Western oil companies and the Western banks. And there was more money to be made dealing with the Arabs from about 1930 onward, when oil was discovered in huge quantities under the sand. That's where the money was. The Arabs have oil, Jews do not, and so our intelligence agencies basically worked to protect the investments of companies like Standard Oil, Texaco, Mobil, the big banks, and it was
the military-industrial
complex. Military-industrial complex. Yeah, it's terrible to think about, but that's really the truth of it. And whether this was done for financial reasons or for ideological reasons, because there are a lot of pro-Iranian types who have been brought into the Obama and then the Biden administrations.
Don't forget, though, the love of money is the root of all evil. Not money, but the love of it.
Yes.
And that's a really easy gateway for the fallen realm to enter into a person's life. If he or she is motivated by money, which equals power, then you can use that person to wage warfare against another spirit.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, behind all of this is spiritual warfare.
Right.
You said you weren't sure what they accomplished. Well, one of the stories I saw, and I shared it on Telegram, was that the IDF were targeting manufacturing of solid rocket fuel.
Okay.
And that they took down 20 of them.
Okay.
20 sites that manufactured solid rocket fuel.
Well, that would starve Hezbollah especially, but also Hamas of although I would imagine smuggling things into Gaza right now is a lot more difficult than getting things into Lebanon. Israel has been targeting border crossing sites between Syria and Lebanon where weapons have been brought in on a pretty regular basis. So, yeah, that would definitely be a strategic goal. The fact that Lapid and Lieberman and other opposition leaders are criticizing Netanyahu has more to do with politics than with military objectives. And Times of Israel is actually reporting that Iran has not vowed to respond. They've only said they've got a duty to defend itself. Mm-hmm. So it seems like the two sides are calibrating their responses, because the attack on October 1st by Iran, the only death was that poor Palestinian Arab who was in Jericho, and an Iranian missile that had been shot out of the sky by Iron Dome or David Sling or whatever. The remnant of the rocket fell on the guy as he's walking across a parking lot.
Which is why you have to get to a shelter. It isn't to protect you from the rocket itself or the missile itself. It's the debris when Iron Dome takes it down. And
this was caught on a CCTV video, and the poor guy just had no idea that death was falling out of the sky right on top of his head. It was, thankfully, it was not high res, and it was taken from a distance, so you didn't see any details up close, but it was just tragic. But anyway, only one death, so Israel probably trying to calibrate its response. Let's try to cripple some of the weapons-making ability of the Iranians, which hopefully will starve Hezbollah of rockets. And as we're recording this, again, it's not even 10 a.m. here in the American Midwest, but thus far in Israel, 200 rockets have been launched from Lebanon thus far.
And 4 UAVs.
And 4 UAVs, right. Netanyahu's house got hit last Saturday after we recorded PID Radio. And of course, that was, yeah. The pictures that have been shown of the bulletproof glass. This is in the seaside town of Caesarea,
This is his personal home.
His personal home. We visited Caesarea when we were there last March, because it was a historic city that was built up by Herod the Great.
Didn't realize it was locally pronounced Caesarea.
Oh, Caesarea.
Saying, where are we going?
Yeah. Well, it probably was a hard C, like the Boston Celtics ought to be the Celtics.
Hence the Kaiser.
Kaiser, yeah. Anyway, the bulletproof glass withstood...
Who is Kaiser Sose?
The bulletproof glass withstood the impact of this bomb-laden drone, and Netanyahu and his wife were not home at the time. But boy, you go after the head of state, and that is going to get you a pretty muscular response. Israel is often accused of dominating American foreign policy. I think the people who make that claim are seeing what they want to see. American foreign policy, especially since Barack Obama took over, but even before that, you look back to George W. Bush. I remember this very distinctly as I was talking about this on the daily secular talk show that I did back in 2006 and 2007, George W. Bush's Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice was saying, the time is now for a two-state solution. Like, wait, what?
Yeah, I know.
A Republican pushing, yeah, they were back then. So this is not a Republican-Democrat thing. It is the deep state, for some reason, trying to impose. And why would they do that? Because the Arabs got the oil and the Jews don't.
And that's what they think the reason is. The real reason is spiritual.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. But that's George W. Bush, oil man, his father, oil man. And so there's money to be made there.
The oil and the wine.
Yeah, money to be made there. But you're right. At the heart of it really is a spiritual war. And this is what is going on. So pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And boy, I'll tell you what, though, the way the Israelis are cutting the heads off the hydras almost as fast as they can regrow. The question is, how long will Israel's economy allow them to keep doing this? Because those Iron Dome missiles cost a lot more than those cheap rockets that the Arabs are throwing at them.
I think Israel's ability to respond is going to shock the world simply because that's the Lord's land.
Yeah, I'm offering an analysis that was rooted in the natural and not in the supernatural.
That's why I'm over here. Yep. I tend to see the unnatural.
Well, super. Yeah.
It's a supernatural.
Yeah,
world.
supra.
Yeah. It's
subliminal, superliminal.
We are just getting ready to, well, let me tell you, I watch I-24 News, and sadly the audio English version of that has been drastically reduced to just a couple of hours a day, if you get that. There is always a translation at the bottom of the screen of the Hebrew. And I've been trying to learn Hebrew, but boy, I tell you, it's a complicated language. But the translation in English is sometimes a little gibberishy.
Yeah.
They really need to work on perfecting it. And I realize that having an AI do this on the fly as someone is speaking very quickly.
Difficult, yes.
Yeah, it would be difficult. But I try to follow it as much as I can. And very often now, whatever the speaker is discussing and whoever is speaking, it will always be, well, we'll see what happens on November 5th.
Oh, yeah.
Everything 5th, could change November 5th.
Election day here in the United States. Well, we've got a lot to say about the political situation here in the U.S. You want to take a break and we can come back and talk about that a little more?
Sure.
Do you want to talk about the trial going on in southern Indiana? Do you want to touch on that and get into that at all?
We can. I honestly don't know a whole lot about it. I can just speak to what tiny bit I know, but I know that our Indiana listeners probably know more, and feel free, once I get into it, feel free to comment.
Yeah. Well, we'll touch on that. The murders in Delphi, Indiana. And Trump is literally the leader of the National Socialist Party.
So-called.
Yeah, that's ahead on PID Radio. Our new book, The Gates of Hell, is available now, and we have a special offer on it at the Gilbert House store.
You know, you're not going to find a deal like this anywhere else. You're going to get the book, which is a $21.95 value. You're going to get 3 DVDs.
More than 12 hours of video content, plus the book for just $45. That's half price.
That's half price because the whole package at retail is over $90.
The Gates of Hell tackles mysteries like, where was Jesus baptized and why did he choose to get baptized in a place known as the Land of the Serpent?
Oh my goodness, you want this deal. This is the kind of thing that you can share with your friends, share with your pastor, read again, because trust me, the source information that Derek and I used for this, you're not going to find it anywhere else.
Right. It's not just an archaeological or historical curiosity. It is relevant to us today. Again, a special offer for the month of October only at gilberthouse.org/store. Welcome back to PID Radio. I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and not only should you download our app, when you go to gilberthouse.org, go to /travel, because we still intend to go to Israel next spring. We just got a note from Tim Alberino the other day saying, you guys still going in the spring? Yes.
Yeah, unless
something changes, in which case, when you sign up, whatever money you've put in, whether it's just the down payment, which I think is $300, or the entire amount, you'll get it back.
Yes.
If you cannot go on the new date. But if you can go on the new date, then all of that will be transferred over to the new date.
Absolutely.
Because we did that during lockdown.
Yeah. We had to reschedule 4 times. It was the 4th time we finally managed to get over there.
We finally got back there after, 4 years, 5 years?
4 years, yeah. We went in 2019 and then again in 2023.
Yeah.
So hopefully 2025, that is our prayer. Because if we go, yes, big year, good year to be over there.
Yeah.
And we'll take you to the sites that were important to the Essenes. And, Qumran being one, but also the area north of the Sea of Galilee, Capernaum. We want to visit the ancient, the ruins of Bethsaida, both the city itself, but then the other place called Khirbet Beteha, which means ruins of Bethsaida, which is a megalithic site like Gilgal Rephaim that nobody seems to know about.
Look, we're probably the only ones that have been there investigating it from a Christian worldview.
Yeah.
And maybe the only ones that have gone there just from an archaeological view, with the exception of Michael Freakman.
Dr. Mike Freakman, who's done the most recent excavations there and at Gilgal Rephaim. So, and if he's there and we can get him to talk to the group, boy, he is a hoot, but he is a wealth of knowledge.
Isn't he, though? Be sure, though, if this works out, that you read his papers first, because when he teaches by asking questions. So when you answer the question, he goes,
"You know too much." And he looks like a biker. Shaved head, Fu Manchu mustache, and very funny.
We would love so much for you to join us in Israel. So go to gilberthouse.org/travel. And while you're on the website, also go to /store, because we have slashed prices on, get that? I like that? On some of our books. And I'll tell you what, you get 3 of our novels in November.
Yeah.
Plus, we're going to throw in Sci Friday, Volume 2 for free. And you already get a deal on the 3 books.
Yeah, and it's the Best of Sci Friday Volume 2. That's a 2 DVD set, so $85 value for just $45 plus shipping and handling. That's coming up beginning November 1st. Yeah,
the books alone would cost $60.
Yeah, and come December, we'll have a whole range of specials, as we tend to do around Christmas. Drives the local post office ladies nuts. And Here comes Derek with his basket again. Oh.
You're going to take in 2 baskets today. But and if you're waiting for book 9 of the Red Wing Saga, I am still working on it. And please forgive me for being so late. We've been doing programs and books and this and that in the meantime. And my eyes just don't seem to be getting a whole lot better. They've gotten worse the last couple of days, and I don't know why. So I'm sitting here wearing a hat. I'm sitting
here wearing a hat. Yeah.
Beneath the lights.
Yes, that's how our brains work. We hear a certain cadence to a sentence, and it fits into a musical song.
Even the dogs will sing along now. But anyway, please go there, and thank you so very much for doing that, because all of that helps to undergird and pay for the lights and this and that, and keeps the stuff we produce as free as possible. All of these podcasts, these videos, we want you to be able to share them and consume them, and dismiss them.
And if you're interested in video content, we do have a streaming video site where a lot of our content, even the stuff that's available on DVD, is available to stream instantly. So if you're outside the United States, you don't want to pay for shipping, you can get instant access. Some of the things, a lot of them, you can rent for 7 days for as little as $3.
And that's so much cheaper than buying the DVD. Like I've said, I love DVDs. But if you are overseas, you might pay $40 more for shipping just to ship 1 DVD.
Yeah, and if you've got value-added tax on top of that.
Yep.
So, yes, those are available, gilberthouse.org/video. We keep forgetting to talk about that stuff, but we've got a lot of stuff there, and we've actually got our video presentation I did showing our Solidarity Mission visit to Israel back in May is available for free there. So you can sign in there, get that access for free, and see what we saw when we visited the sites that were attacked last October 7th.
Is our travel documentary number 2, Search for the Rephaim?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Both of those videos regarding our Israel tours are there.
Those of you who wanted to order the second DVD of that, we've got them on order, but they're not here yet.
They've shipped.
Oh,
so they should be. They should be in the store this coming week.
Oh, that's wonderful. But in the meantime, you can just stream it.
Yeah, stream it. Get it for 7 days, $3. You can get permanent access. I forget what the price is on there, but again, if you just want to rent it, watch it, get it for a week for $3.
Yeah. And then if you really like it and you want to share it with a friend for Christmas, then there you go.
Yeah. So anyway, well, the political situation in the United States. This is the strangest presidential campaign of my lifetime.
I have watched, in 2 days I turned 72 years old. And that's the age where I think I can officially be a crabby old lady.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Go for it.
I'm going to go for it. I really am. I have seen so many presidential elections and paid close attention to them, mind you. And this is by far the most vindictive that I have ever watched.
Huh.
Both sides are going after each other, but especially the left going after the right, because Trump derangement syndrome is a thing.
Yep.
TDS is a thing. And the name calling, that just, it's like, have you realized that calling those names, which you've been doing since 2015, does nothing?
Mm-hmm.
Early on, you got a little traction by using the H word. You know, he's a fascist. He's as bad as the H word. Rhymes with Spittler.
Yes.
Yes. Anyway, using that no, it doesn't get anywhere anymore. And what you end up looking like is, excuse me, can you give me just one policy that you stand for? Stop using the Trump word and using those things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can tell you what Trump will do. No, that's not what I asked you.
Yeah.
Even Anderson Cooper tried to pin her down.
This was really interesting, very telling, because CNN is normally a friendly venue for Democratic candidates.
Anderson Cooper is a darling of the left.
Cooper is a Democratic operative masquerading as a journalist,
Blue
which
blood.
is the case of...
Comes from the Vanderbilt family.
Yes, Dana Bash on CNN is likewise a Democrat operative masquerading as a journalist. MSNBC is just a wing of the Democratic Party. There are those who'd claim that Fox News is a wing of the Republican Party, and I would say it's more representative of the Republicans who are part of the deep state.
Rhinos.
Yeah, rhinos, not the Republicans who are actually supporting Donald Trump, which is a majority of people who identify as Republicans.
I think there are dinos, too, to be honest with you.
Sure. Neocons, they don't care which part of their party. The neocons came from the Democratic Party, switched over to Republican under George H.W. and especially George W. But the reason you're seeing so many nominal Republicans who are now coming, like Dick Cheney, coming out and supporting Kamala Harris is because they want to continue the gravy train. You're talking literally billions of dollars being funneled to the military-industrial complex by continuing these wars. I mean, we thought the Democrats were the peaceniks. No, you go back and look over the last 50, 60 years. Lyndon Johnson was the one who really prosecuted Vietnam.
Roosevelt was in office during World War II.
World War II, yeah. And they withheld information that the admiral in charge of Hawaii, Admiral Kimmel, husband E. Kimmel, was information about the approaching Japanese fleet was withheld from Admiral Kimmel so that they basically allowed American servicemen and women to be sacrificed in order as a tripwire to get the American public to say, yeah, we need to get into this war, because a lot of Americans after World War I and the horrors of World War I was like, look, this is a European thing. We don't care. Let Germany do what it does and let the English fight it. And
Vietnam, the Tonkin.
Gulf of Tonkin, which was faked. That Lyndon Johnson used that to get into. So anyway, bottom line here is it's not a political party thing. There's a uniparty behind.
It's the love of power.
Right. It's like pro wrestling. You get the faces and the heels, baby faces and the heels, and they fight like cats and dogs on camera, and behind the scenes they're going out for drinks.
Yep.
That's what's going on here. Kamala was appointed. She was anointed. It was really interesting. The CNN town hall where Cooper was trying to get her to elucidate some of her points. And you could tell he was getting a little frustrated. It's like, do you think the wall is stupid now? Well, let me talk about Donald Trump and the wall. It's like, no. You said it was stupid when it was Trump. Well, Trump didn't get the wall finished, so you don't think the wall is stupid now. And she was like...
And she said the only time he went down there, it was a photo op, and he took the picture in front of part of the wall that Obama built. And I thought, Oh, honey.
Yeah.
What did you just say?
Exactly. So now you're saying walls are good because, as Anderson Cooper pointed out, she'd actually called it a medieval vanity project and stupid. Yeah. But now it's not stupid because, I was for the wall before I was against it. The John Kerry answer. And she just circular word salad. She's like the salad spinner.
I know.
You remember that thing that they would sell on late night TV? The salad spinner?
I so want one.
She is the salad spinner.
She, in previous videos that we've seen sort of dug out of the archives, she not only spins salad, she wipes her nose a lot. I'll just say that.
Some videos have emerged of her.
Girl, if you've got a cold, then blow
your nose, get a hanky.
Just say, excuse me, I've got, but to sit there and every,
couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Or
even more frequently than that. Yeah. She was doing it a lot. So, I've seen that done before.
We never did hear from
Snow.
Yeah.
Let's just say Snow.
Never did find out who that baggie found at the White House belonged to.
No, we're not saying.
Yeah. Secret Service knows, FBI knows, and there've been, was it, boy, I forget which.
And again, this is just our opinion.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there was an investigative report that claimed to have had the name of the owner leaked. I mean, there were fingerprints on the baggie that were found, but that information has been suppressed.
I'm sure there was CCTV. This is the White House, for goodness sake.
Right. Secure area of the White House. Somebody left that bag. Anyway, Kamala was roundly criticized in the post-town hall analysis on CNN.
She was skewered.
Yeah, Dana Bash, again, Democrat operative masquerading as a journalist, said, the people that I'm talking to say that if she was trying to seal the deal, they don't think she did that, which is kind of a nice way of saying she had an opportunity. It was set up for her like a little kid playing t-ball, and she whiffed. She, Democrat operatives, consultants, political strategists were very frustrated. The Hill reported on this the following day, The Hill being a political news site. And those guys were just, they're watching it, throwing things at the TV. Answer a question.
Well, my question is, she has a team that prepare her for each of these appearances. Either the team is saying, just keep saying the Trump word over and over again, or she's not been asked to memorize the answers.
Yeah.
Surely she got through college and law school. You would think she's capable of memorizing answers to, say, 6 questions.
You would think. I think, and this is a criticism that was leveled against her before she was appointed to replace Biden. Back when she was the worst vice president in history and the corporate media was reporting on this, the least popular, worst, horrible person to work for. Some of the sources familiar, as they're called in the media, sources familiar with the subject, say that she doesn't like to do the homework. She does not prepare. And I think it's because it's like when I was in grammar school and even in high school, being the smartest kid in the room in a lot of my classes, I could coast.
Yeah.
I didn't have to work that hard. I found out the hard way when I got to college that was not going to get me through. Went to a school with some fairly decent academic rigor, and suddenly I went from being an A student to a C+ student. Like,
well, I will say again, she got into and graduated from law school. That requires a lot of work, So either she got through some other way than working, or she's lost the ability.
That is possible too. There are some older videos of her speaking where she seems sharper than she does now. And I know that as you get a little older, you lose your,
she's not that
a few miles an hour off your fastball, but she's only 58.
She's not 72. I can still think.
Yeah, exactly. Days. And speak clearly. So what this is about, I don't know. Maybe it's that she's gone so long since law school without having to do the work where she's been able to coast.
Possibly. Okay, question for you. You and I are going to be on a live election night panel.
Right.
In Blue Eye, Missouri on the Jim Baker Show.
Right.
We were just invited a couple of days ago to do that. So we decided we would do it. And it's going to be, things start at 8 Central.
8 p.m. Central Time, right. The polls will close, should be mostly closed by then.
Should be able to find it at jimbakershow.com.
Or ptlnetwork.com.
Yep.
Or if they've got app developed by the same company that develops our app, so you can get the app.
Yeah. There you go.
The PTL network, and then just watch the stream live. Put it on, if you got Roku or Apple TV or Fire TV, the app should be available there as well, and then just watch the stream.
There you go. We're going to be on that, and it's very possible that there won't be a clear announced winner on that night. There may be a trend towards one or the other, but my question to you is, what if on Wednesday morning, we wake up to the headlines, President Harris? What do we do as Christians?
Yeah. Well, we continue doing what we're doing, or should be doing, that is, which is making disciples of all nations.
Do we freak out and start yelling and saying we got cheated? Because many of us did last time.
Yeah.
Is that the way to respond, though?
No, it isn't.
Whether it's true or not.
Because
Yeah,
look. If it happens and it's plausible, I think it's less likely than it was in 2020.
Oh, me too. But let's say we do.
But it is plausible that this does happen. That there are some interesting discoveries of votes in the middle of the night. And
look, this postal worker's been just holding all of his letters.
His truck broke down, and all of the votes were in the back of the truck. He just now got the tire fixed. Yeah, it's plausible. And if that happens and the Lord allows it, well, then it's being allowed for his reasons.
That's it.
Yeah.
That is it.
The Lord is the one who raises up kings and tears them down again. Daniel saw this, and Daniel lived in a time of Nebuchadnezzar.
And as we're moving into 2025, the entire world will come against Israel. Trump has been Israel's friend.
Trump was the most pro-Israel president in American history.
Yes. Amen to that. I
mean, you can say, well, Reagan was pretty pro.
No.
Yeah, but there were forces working behind the scenes in his government. Same with Nixon.
Mm-hmm.
That very nearly during Nixon's time, Kissinger almost allowed Israel to get destroyed. The NSA knew about the Yom Kippur War and didn't tell Israel until 4 hours before the attack was supposed to begin. Israel needs like 16, at least back then in 1973, to mobilize. So Kissinger wanted them to bleed a little, and he opened an artery by having the NSA stand down. And then he was like out of pocket. So when they were trying to reach him, it's like, what do we do? Henry's nowhere to be found. We can't get him.
It's terrible.
It was not coincidental.
But imagine trying to get some kind of a decision from a President Harris.
Yeah. I would not look forward to it, but I think we need to prepare as Christians. If it happens.
That's my point. We really do. If the assumption is, okay, the numbers are just really, we're going to have a President Trump again.
Yeah.
If the Lord says no, I'm putting Harris in for a reason.
Yeah. I think you said something during COVID after the lockdowns became a reality. The church has not been destroyed. It's been deployed. And I think that is so insightful. And that would be especially true if it turns out that she somehow was elevated to that position. And really, that's what it would be, because she has not won a single vote in any of the primaries held this time around. She quit in 2020. She dropped out before Christmas in 2019, in fact, dropped out of the race because her polling was so bad. Mm-hmm. And we can see why, given the horrible way she comports herself in front of cameras and facing questions that aren't pre-scripted today.
She is a DEI VP.
Yes, she is. Absolutely. And
that's my opinion.
And, people might say, well, that's really, no, President Biden became president because he went to a very prominent leader in the African-American Congressional Caucus, the Black Caucus, in Representative James Clyburn of South Carolina, and promised him that he would appoint a woman of color as his vice president if he got the nomination. Suddenly, South Carolina went to Biden. That really gave his campaign the momentum needed to carry him through. So he also promised he would appoint a woman of color as the Supreme Court justice nominee, and he did. Not, hey, I'm going to pick the best available candidate to fill that spot on the Supreme Court. Nope. What's going to matter is the amount of melanin in her skin, and
her husband is Jewish.
Yeah, Kamala Harris.
Because he also went to the Jewish voters.
Yep.
And that statement of, I went to the shul every Sunday. No, I mean on Saturdays. No, when did I go?
Yeah, and claims that he was raised in a black Methodist church. And
then he was raised in a Polish church. Then he was raised in he has told so many stories about his religious affiliations, his education, where he grew up, and they differ depending upon the audience. But sort of like Harris, her accent differs.
Yeah. She is an empty suit. The difference between her and Barack Obama is that Barack Obama has a brain, or at least is capable of using it and speaking off the cuff.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Not everybody can do that.
He does come across as rather professorial, as when he was in Pittsburgh and basically lecturing black men, because polling showing that Trump is poised to do better with black voters than any Republican candidate since Richard Nixon in 1960. And that was before the Civil Rights Act. So when Democrats really weaponized that and said Republicans want to, put you back on the plantation. And it was really the 60s when that divergence, when suddenly you get 90% of black voters casting ballots for Democrats. Trump is breaking the paradigm, and this is freaking out Democratic strategists and pollsters.
There's an account I follow on X that is a group of young men. They're all brothers, and they've got some of their friends coming in too, and they sit and they watch political videos and comment on them. Oh, there are comments about Harris. It is clear they would never vote for her.
Yeah.
And they're for Trump. They are hands down for Trump because he's got policies.
He does. He talks about what he plans to do. Close the border, enact tariffs to protect American businesses, offer tax incentives for American businesses that have offshored a lot of things to come back, which are things that he was talking about back in 2016.
You know what surprises me, speaking of keeping the border closed, I had to think through how I was going to put that. In the city of Chicago, there was a time when certain Italian segment, put it that way, but also there was an Irish segment, various gangs that influenced the vote. And now it is just openly not a family operation, we'll put it that way. It's just street gangs.
Yeah.
And not that, I'm not sure there's much of a difference, as far as whether or not you break the law, but now it's just openly street gangs. The Bloods and the various names that they call themselves.
Latin Kings.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Yep. How do they feel about Daragua? Yeah, Daragua.
Something like that.
Aragua. That's what it is.
That's it, yes.
Yeah. It's D-E, and then capital A-R-A-G-U-A. Yeah. Which I think translates to the train of someplace. And it goes back to some big event that ended up being
it turned out to be
point for this gang.
A big opportunity for corruption. And the people who were behind building this railroad started hiring thugs.
Yeah.
And it turned into a self-supporting, self-perpetuating gang.
This is a gang that makes MS-13 look like choir boys.
They are brutal. And what's astonishing is that the stories about them, it really came to national attention when the videos came out from Aurora, Colorado, of these heavily armed guys caught on a doorbell camera going into an apartment just a half an hour before somebody got shot there and killed. They have taken over several apartment complexes in Aurora, and local government, it's a Republican mayor in Aurora, downplaying it. Well, it's, just a handful of complexes. This was really highlighted during an interview between Martha Raddatz of ABC News and J.D. Vance, the Republican vice presidential candidate. And she said, okay, well, President Trump has talked about this, about how these gangs are taking over our cities. And Aurora said, no, it's just a handful of apartment complexes. So And she made it sound like a handful of apartment complexes taken over by a heavily armed gang from Venezuela, guys who shouldn't even be here in the country, is no big deal. And Vance was astounded. He said, do you hear yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Do you hear yourself that it's okay because it's only a handful of apartment. People are still living in those apartments. Mm-hmm. The property managers who are out of state say, we're not getting any money, but somebody still, they're paying rent. It's just going to the gang.
Yep.
So they have come into our cities and they're taking territory. It's an invasion.
Here's the other thing. They're taking children, and they're taking these children that are disaffected. They're turning them into their own little gangs. And they specifically do it not just to increase their numbers, but also to use these children because they're under the limit. They're under that legal prosecution limit.
Right. Yeah. In the state of New York, if they're under the age of 16, you can't really be punished for much. And so you get, 14 and 15-year-olds carrying weapons, and they can be just as dangerous as a guy who's 25. It's just they are not going to be put away for very long.
Some of these kids are carrying machetes.
Yeah.
It's very much like what's been going on in the UK for a while. Now it's coming here, and they're carrying these machetes through a shopping mall.
Yeah, Donald Trump made the comment when he was asked about what Harris had said about the border. And this was in reference to her comments to Anderson Cooper, that she basically dithered on the wall. And he's saying, she said that? Well, she is how did he put it? Deeply incompetent person or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
And said, look, under her watch, her and Biden have allowed, he used the number 21 million to cross into the country illegally. Now, that's higher than the official numbers that are released by Department of Homeland Security and ICE, but those numbers often are just the encounters. It's the known encounters, and then you've got the known gotaways, what they call them, and then there are the unknowns, the people who cross the border and are not detected. So we have had, 21 million. You think about that. That's 7-8% of the population of the country?
It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That is a lot of people.
It is. The population of the United States is like, my goodness. Our county here, our county in southern Missouri is like 35,000 people in our entire county. So it's a huge amount of people. Begs the question as to why this is being allowed, because this was going on during the George W. Bush administration. I was having programs on this on the Daily Talk Show back then and interviewing one of the guys connected to the Border Patrol Union, I think, and Union of Border Patrol Officers. And he said back then they were encountering an awful lot of what they called OTMs, other than Mexicans, people coming from elsewhere. So now we're seeing people coming from, Venezuela, from China, people coming from Africa. They fly over to Ecuador and then start walking up through Mexico.
So where's the money come from those?
Where's the money come from? United Nations is spending a lot of money on NGOs to provide water and food and cell phones and maps to people who are coming north. Why is this happening? Well, either they want to destroy the United States, or somebody thinks that this is a good way to get cheap labor. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, about the story from Springfield, Ohio, and how people from Haiti were being exploited. Charleroi, Pennsylvania is another one. There is a story that was just out this week from James O'Keefe, who's got the O'Keefe Media Group. He was the one who started Project Veritas and then got kicked out by his board of directors after he went after Pfizer. One of the people he interviewed for this story about the migrant invasion, or the trafficking, let's say, of migrants.
Yes.
Contract specialist from General Services Administration said, and I'm quoting now, "My line in the sand moment was when I found that the GSA, General Services Administration, had awarded a contract to a company to transport unaccompanied minors." We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Company, private security contractor called MVM, was awarded a contract worth $347 million to transport unaccompanied minors who had crossed the southern border to, quote, sponsors, end quote. This person talking to James O'Keefe said the contract made her feel like someone had kicked her in the gut. $347 million. Now, this is a contractor that provides security services for the FBI, the NSA, and other agencies. But it is astonishing as Muckraker, and again, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago and linked to the article by Muckraker, and there's a short video documentary that they prepared, tracked some of these kids. They got the names of some of them and found that they were being delivered to places like, abandoned homes or a home where you've got 12 other sponsors who are picking up kids there. What is happening to those children after they're dropped off with these sponsors? Who knows? Who knows?
Well,
I'll put a link to Zero Hedge, which is one of the news sites that I looked at, Zero Hedge News. I'll put a link to this article because they also link back to the Muckraker piece, but they link to the video that James O'Keefe put together with this whistleblower from the General Services Administration. And again, this all exploded beginning in 2021 when Joe Biden on his first day issued a bunch of executive orders reversing border policies that had been put in place by Donald Trump.
Boy, tell you what, we never lack for things to talk about. Because you mentioned this earlier, I'll go ahead and mention this before we close today. So if you live anywhere near Delphi, Indiana, you know about the 2017 murders of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. These two young girls, teenagers, were lured into the woods. They were just out, doing things that teens do. They were filming themselves at various locations, and sadly, some of those films have been played in court. So to see the last actions of your children had to have just broken these parents. But Richard Allen is the man who has been charged with the murders. He is, as I say, on trial right now. And there has been a new aspect to the case.
Yeah, Daily Mail reported on this Thursday. And this is why this is back in the news.
Yeah, I just saw the story yesterday.
Right. And the headline is Accused Delphi Murderer Richard Allen's Defense. Push theory the slain girls were killed in a pagan ritual.
Which means that their client didn't do it. Is that what they're saying? That's
what they're saying, yeah. They're claiming that the two girls were not killed by Allen, but by multiple people as part of an Odinist ritual.
Now, Odinism has been on the rise in the United States and some Nordic countries, of course, where it originated, and also in the UK. It seems to be a reactionary movement to just being pushed aside. Mm-hmm. So there are some young men and older men, but young men especially, who are identifying with this idea of becoming more Vikingless, more like a Viking.
Mm-hmm. It is.
But sadly, when you throw in the worship of Odin.
Yeah. Which it's called Asatru.
The movement?
Yeah. It is
This is a dangerous movement.
It is. And there's an aspect of this. There's a group in Florida, and I've interviewed William Ramsey about this group and cited him in the book, The Second Coming of Saturn, because Odin is roughly the equivalent of Saturn, Kronos, in the Norse pantheon.
Yep, Thor being the storm god, the equivalent of Satan.
Right, Odin, the All-Father, just as Saturn, Kronos, Enlil were the father of all the gods.
And by the way, Wednesday is named for him.
Yes.
Woden's Day.
Woden's Day, right. So he is a brutal deity, and his followers, especially the Order of Nine Angles, which is the group that is...
You did a lot of research on that.
Yeah, and it basically comes from William Ramsey and his research on this. It is a group that is relatively small, but it basically looks at other satanic groups.
The Nine Angles?
The Order of Nine Angles. And when I say satanic, that is not to equate Odin with Satan. I think that Odin, if he is, as my theory is, the equivalent of Saturn, Kronos, etc., he would be Shemiyaza. He would be that rebel who led the group in Genesis 6, the sons of God who commingled with human women and is now banished to the netherworld. Banished to the netherworld while Satan is still roaming
nice in
the
the
earth.
Movies.
Yeah, I know. And, Ian McShane, who plays Mr. Wednesday, Odin, in the recent series on HBO, American Gods. Or it's not, I think it's Stars. not recommended for family viewing.
No.
Just so you know. Ian McShane is a wonderful actor, plays him as kind of wisecracking and fun-loving. And, this is not the Odin of the Norse religion, and is certainly not how his followers, at least in the Order of Nine Angles, is followed.
Well, the question is...
They believe that the Satanist groups like the Satanic Temple and Temple of Set, that they're cosplayers, they're LARPers.
Yeah.
They truly believe in human sacrifice. And that, I think, is what the Defense Council here is trying to argue.
LARPing, if you're not familiar with that, it's live action role play. That is sadly all too common these days. And those who are cosplaying or LARPing, just pretending because they think it's a cool thing to do, trust me, this is not the door you want to open. But this, you have to ask if the defense, it has to do, based on what my understanding is, the way the bodies were found.
Yeah.
That the way the twigs and the branches were arranged, we'll put it that way, over their bodies, that somehow it had something to do with runes and secret meanings that indicate this Odinism cult. The question is, why kill those two girls?
Yeah. Yeah. Don't know. I mean,
they're precious teenage girls.
Well, again, human sacrifice is an evil thing. And in fact, that is the subject of tomorrow night's discussion with Dr. Judd Burton.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just tell you right now, if you're listening to this, I had to edit out about 8 minutes of that interview for the video that's going up to YouTube, because it got into stuff that almost certainly would have gotten that show deleted and possibly the entire channel, because I've seen YouTube delete entire channels for less than what Judd brought to that discussion.
Yeah, well, the idea of, we'll see if YouTube allows us to even say things like that. The rules are becoming stricter and they change day by day. So, but we try to keep this Mars Hill opportunity. It's not that we're afraid to say these things. We're not.
Yeah.
Look, we've been saying these things for years. It's just that these days, it is becoming very strict.
It is. And
that's why you need to download the app, because everything, it's unedited, it just goes right up there, because the Christian company Subsplash that designed the app, they maintain the app, they house all of our and store all of our video and audio. They
have no intention or desire to cancel us. So anyway, the way this case is going, and again, we're dealing with two young girls 7 years ago.
Yes.
So this has been ongoing for a while. This trial has been ongoing, the trial has been ongoing for 7 years. But
you have lawyers that are making a lot of money. Well, just a continuance here, a continuance there, change of venues, change of judges.
Yeah, and Alan, 52-year-old, married, got a child. His lawyers tried to present this Odinist defense previously. In fact, they had a crime scene investigator who testified, or actually, rather, they brought in an expert previously that had presented this information, but the judge ruled that it was inadmissible. The previous admission was evidence was testimony by an expert in ritualistic crime scenes, and the judge said, nope, we can't allow that in the case. But the crime scene investigator mentioned the twigs and the boughs that were arranged over the bodies, and so now the defense team is saying, okay, that has opened the door for us to present this defense once again.
Okay, gotcha. Well, if you're interested in this, you might just do a search for Delphi murders, DELPHI. And sadly, that family, they're suffering. I mean, to hear all of this evidence and to see videos but they need justice. They need justice. But also we know that our Lord is the one who will enact justice.
Yes.
He will make the fallen realm, who are ultimately behind this, they will pay, along with those humans who have been foolish enough to say yes when they are tempted, because our free will matters.
That's the thing that we need to remember, because we want justice right now.
Yeah.
We want it done, and God will do it on his timing.
Yes, exactly.
But that's the thing we need to remember, as Paul wrote, vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, I will repay. He's quoting an Old Testament verse, but it's hard for us to wait because we know in this earth we get, 60, 70, 80 years, whatever it is. We want to see it while we can still enjoy it, while we can still revel in the revenge. God takes vengeance.
He does.
It is his place to do that. And the same holds true as we look at the political realm and say, how is it these people they're cheating and they're getting away with it? Well, yeah, for now. For now.
That day is coming.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah.
Very soon. That's that song. Soon and very soon.
Yep.
We are going to see the King. Well, we want to remind you that Derek has VFTB tomorrow night.
Yeah, Dr. Judd Burton. It's our annual Halloween episode. We've been doing it every year since 2014, but we also did one in 2010. And I put links in the notes below the episode when it goes out tomorrow to all the various and sundry locations for all of the previous episodes.
Mm-hmm.
If you missed it, last year we talked about creepy dolls.
Yep.
And we've talked about everything from vampires to werewolves. Right.
But the unedited versions will always be on our app, so you can go there and get all of that stuff.
So the app on your mobile device, but also Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV. It's available for that, for Google TV, Android TV. If you've got a smart TV with any of those systems, go to the App Store and get the Gilbert House app installed because all of the content, both audio and video, goes there. So the Bible's Greatest Mysteries, Sharon's new podcast, The Armored Sheep. I'm going to drop that in as part of the intro one of these days because now I've got it recorded.
I know. My nephew does it best, though.
Unraveling Revelation, A View from the Bunker, our weekly Bible study, and all of our classic archives. Those are all available on the TV apps as well. So Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, et cetera, et cetera.
How do we have time to write?
Lots of coffee.
I guess.
Lots of coffee.
Tomorrow morning, instead of the Bible, we're going to be in the book of Enoch again.
Right. And if you go back to last week's Gilbert House Fellowship, there will be links in there for free copies of the book of Enoch that you can read online. It's not free hard copies.
Right.
But,
you can get a hard copy from Defender.
Yep. Skywatch TV store. There is the R.H. Charles translation.
Mm-hmm.
Charles, or is that Brenton? Brenton's the Septuagint.
Yeah, it's Charles.
Charles. R.H. Charles. There is a PDF version of a more modern translation by a professor whose name is escaping me at the moment, but that is linked there as well.
Yeah, I just had that. I think I closed my...
There's also a PDF version of the Charles translation. Which is available. So anyway, the texts are out there. We also have a more modern English translation by George W.E. Nicholsburg and James Vanderkam, who are leading scholars of Enochic literature. They took the available texts, both from the Ethiopic, but also the Syriac and some Greek translations, and basically tried to collate them together to come up with the best, closest English translation to the original which was probably written in Aramaic, because it was likely written in the 4th through 1st centuries BC.
Yep. So anyway. We'll be doing that tomorrow morning, and Armored Sheep will go up on Wednesdays. We've got Unraveling Revelation. We've got the Bible's Greatest Mysteries.
Unraveling Revelation on Monday, Armored Sheep on Wednesday, Bible's Greatest Mysteries on Friday, and then on the weekend we get the bonus round with PID Radio on Saturday, and then on Sunday, our Bible study and A View from the Bunker.
The dogs want their own show.
They put on a great show.
I know they do, and they've been in the backyard this whole time, and who knows what they look like. There's this weed back there called Spanish needles, and it gets these long, they're like an inch long, and they're just these long thorns that are shaped like needles.
Grace gets into them, and they stick in her fur, and she comes in looking
with
like
a little crown on her head of
Pinhead
spikes.
from those horror movies.
Does. Oh. She says, well, it's that time of year.
Yeah.
But thank you, Lord. Nice brush. Gets them out, and suddenly they're just falling on the floor. And I probably got a good 50 out of her earlier today.
Oh, wow. Yeah, she looked like a walking pincushion.
She did.
Furry walking pincushion.
She did, but, they're dogs.
Yeah. So, again, just look up Redemption Draws Near.
Amen.
Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And until next time, I'm Derek Gilbert.
I am Sharon Gilbert, and for Grace and Glory, who are probably covered in pins, bye-bye, everybody.
PID Radio is produced by Gilbert House and released under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. Follow us online, Twitter @PID Radio, or the PID Radio page at Facebook. Join us each week for our online Bible study, the Gilbert House Fellowship, online at gilberthouse.org.